Every time I get heard at all in this broadcast, kids make threats in hopes for a cry for help. And shortly, we're going to tell you what you can do, because this was posted from the FBI. The FBI, the police, and the schools, they take threats very seriously. But first things first, let's get to these articles right here. Starting with the first from Colorado. There has been more fake reports of apparent threats targeting multiple schools in Colorado, which was a few days ago, which was on Wednesday. Multiple schools in Colorado appear to be the target of fake reports on Wednesday claiming possible threats. The police were called to an elementary school following what they described as a swatting incident. The police responded to a high school following reports of a person claiming to have a rifle while walking out of the school. Both incidents appear to be false reports. Similar hoaxes were reported at multiple schools in Colorado on February 22nd. The FBI states that hoax threats are serious federal crimes. I'm going to read this to you in just a minute. This is what they posted on Twitter. Lost police presence at Pentagon Elementary for what appears at this time to be another swatting incident. The school is still secure as officers clear the building. No officers found no credible threat. No credible threat was found. Okay, but there is more. A woman was arrested for making a threat to a Walnut Creek private school. A private school where kids get their education. Let me back this up a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay. A woman was arrested for a threat against Walnut schools. Okay, that's a private school. Authorities in the county have arrested a woman for allegedly making repeated threats against a private religious school in Walnut Creek, prompting the cancellation of classes. According to the police, the schools notified officers on Tuesday after receiving numerous threatening emails and voicemails. Police said the messages included what was described as vague threats of acts of violence toward the campus. The following day, the school notified police that they received more emails and the threats were escalated, with one email apparently containing a photo of the rifle. In response, the school sent students home early from after-school classes on Wednesday and canceled all classes on Thursday and Friday. No evidence of weapons or threats to staff or students was found during the search on campus. Thursday night, police along with a SWAT team served search and arrest warrants at a home of England. The suspect identified as 30-year-old Danielle Nye. She was arrested on suspicion of making criminal threats. It was not immediately known when Nye would appear in court on the charges. According to the website, in 1978, and they offer programs ranging from preschool through 12th grade, which is good. It's probably a good thing to help. Now, it's not just kids and adults. Imagine your favorite substitute teacher making a threat, and makes a threat, and you realize that she was in prison, according to your friends. That's what happened. That's what happened here. A substitute teacher's aide charged for making threats to a Central Pennsylvania elementary school. This happened in Pennsylvania. Lancaster County. The Pennsylvania State Police say a substitute teacher's aide for IU-13 has been charged in connection with threats made to this elementary school in February. This happened on February 23rd. According to authorities, during the course of their investigation, troopers say phone records show that one phone number called the school during the time frame that the threats were made. Police say they will identify the subscriber as 20-year-old Naomi Wagner of Lancaster. Authorities say a records check of the district's employees showed that Wagner was employed by the district as a substitute teacher's aide for IU-13 students and was inside elementary at the time the threats were made, and that police were able to determine that Wagner was responsible for the crime. Wagner was charged on Thursday terroristic threats, criminal use of a communication facility, and obstructing administration of law and government function. Now we got those covered, let's see what the FBI has to say. And this is exactly what they posted. In recent months, the FBI and law enforcement around the country have investigated a number of hoax threats of targeted violence against schools and other public places. These threats, often used via text message or posted on social media, are taken very seriously. Hoax threats are not a joke, and they can have devastating consequences for both the public and the perpetrators. Issuing a threat, even over social media, via text message or through email, is a federal crime, threatening interstate communications. Those who post or send these threats can receive up to 5 years federal prison, or they can face state or local charges. We already showed you some examples there, so let's hear some other examples from the FBI. A young man in Kentucky created a social media account in someone else's name and used it to make threats against a public school. 18 was sentenced to 21 months in prison, and 19 was sentenced to 27 months. A young man in Texas used social media and used the phone to make threats. 21-year-old. Sentenced to 1 year in prison after he sent via text messages in South Carolina. And in North Carolina, a man was sentenced to 22 months in federal prison and was ordered to pay restitution after he broadcast himself on the internet calling in bomb threats. It's one of the guys. So what should you do? Don't ever post or say anything online, period. If you're a target of an online threat, alert your local law enforcement. If you see a threat of violence, contact your local law enforcement. Notify authorities. If you're a parent, know that young people or these threats are often a cry for attention. And talk to your kids about the proper outlet for these stress or emotions. Just remember, you make threats like that, you're going to jail. In your state, it's 5 years in prison. Still ahead, this young man is spreading joy in Corpus Christi by using the force. And also, for over 30 years, the tobacco industry has been a hoax for not labeling a good cigarette. Sam Nellens is going to explain. But next, there's now the very latest from Santa Rosa as students protested after a deadly stabbing that happened. And people say that more must be done. We'll give you the very latest. Stay with us. There was a stabbing that happened just almost a few days ago in Santa Rosa, where a student was stabbed. It's just one of the stories that ever makes me sick. I mean, we focus on the stabbing that happened in the bathroom, or school happening in the bathroom, but when you're dealing with school safety, often the question is, what more can be done? Why aren't districts or superintendents making schools safer for their kids? This is just one of the examples. Here's Elizabeth Cook.
This is a live look at Maria Carrillo High School in Santa Rosa, where students from several schools are staging a walkout. They are calling out administrators for what they say is a failure after this week's deadly stabbing at Montgomery High School. Demonstrators say the incident was just the most glaring example of a worsening problem. On Wednesday, 16-year-old Jaden Pienta died after a 15-year-old freshman stabbed him 3 times during a fight inside a classroom at Montgomery High, right in front of dozens of students. Another 16-year-old junior was hurt in the stabbing as well, but is recovering. A 15-year-old freshman is facing felony murder charges. Now, fellow students want their voices heard.
After every school in the county got threats about school shootings or just incidents in general, it made the students, including me, really worry about the future of the school, what would happen. And then after we heard about the incident here, students on social media started posting about a walkout tomorrow because us as students as a whole didn't feel safe anymore.
Some parents say they are also growing more alarmed after hearing stories from their kids about what sometimes happens at school.
My daughters come home almost daily and tell me, "Oh my God, Mom, there was a fight today. It was really bad," almost on a daily basis.
Parents there say there is a history of bullying within Santa Rosa City schools that has never really been addressed. We've reached out to the administrators to see if they have a response to these allegations, and we are still waiting to hear back. And Sonoma County District Attorney Carla Rodriguez released a statement saying in part that her office will be seeking justice and providing the community with information. But there are also regulations in place that protect the privacy rights of minors. We will continue to follow the story and everything that develops with it. You can always find updates on our website, kpix.com, and we are always streaming on CBS News Bay Area.
But now there's more to this story. They're still calling on these administrators after what happened, so let's take a look at this. when you're going to school, if you're sending your child to school, so here's a pop quiz for you. If you are sending your child to school, what is the number one thing you need to experience when your child goes to school? Safety. That's right. You want to make sure that if you're going to send your child to a new school, you need to ask the administrator, you need to ask the superintendent a question. What's the number one question you need to ask the superintendent? Is the school safe for my child? If you ask the superintendent that question or the board that question, they're going to want to think that you're being very serious. If you ask that question, they think you're going to be very serious. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this walkout as the students of Santa Rosa call out the administrators.
Montgomery High. She spent a lot of time there over the past couple of... Andrea Nakano joining us now from Montgomery High. She spent a lot of time there over the past couple of days. So, Andrea, it sounds like a lot of people that you've talked to have said there was violence and a lot of fighting on campus before this stabbing ever happened.
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. It's still unclear what happened between Jaden Bienta and the suspect in this case, but I've talked to 3 separate parents that share a very similar story, that they have taken their sons out of school because they were bullied and victims of an attack, and they caught those attacks on camera to humiliate them even more. Now students are afraid to return to school, and they are demanding action.
Damian Esparza Sanchez and his mother stopped by Jaden Pienta's memorial with flowers. The two had played baseball together growing up. He can't stop thinking that if the school had done more, Jaden would still be here today.
We feel like the administration didn't, just the way they're running things and how they're handling situations like this, it really angered the students.
Sanchez says the students are demanding change. He attends Maria Carrillo High, and the students are taking action to have their voices heard.
After like every school in the county got like threats about school shootings or just incidents in general, it made the students, including me, really worry about the future of the school, what would happen. And then after we heard about the incident here, students on social media started posting about a walkout tomorrow because us as students as a whole didn't feel safe anymore.
Many parents are also contemplating what they can do to protect their child.
Every day that they go out the door, I'm afraid something's going to happen.
Parents always worry, but many are increasingly alarmed after hearing what happens at school.
My daughters come home almost daily and tell me, "Oh my God, Mom, there's a fight today. It was really bad." Almost on a daily basis.
Christina Tupper says there is a history of bullying within Santa Rosa City Schools that has never been addressed.
This bullying thing, it needs to be addressed not just out of high school, across Santa Rosa, because my daughters, even from kindergarten, were bullied.
Until concrete action is taken, many are worried about stepping into a classroom again.
I don't even know when I want to go back, or if I want to go back at all, just because just of how administration is handling this. So it's a tough decision to make for the future of my education.
So, Andrea, we just wanted to point out that we reached out to the administration to get their response to these allegations. We're still waiting to hear back. But in the meantime, I guess the question is, what do the students and the parents want to see change here?
Yeah, they really want early intervention and concrete steps to resolve issues. That's the first thing they want. And then there are other things like metal detectors at schools and possibly bringing back school resource officers, but some sort of security on campus to monitor these situations.
All right, Andrea, thank you so much for sharing all of their stories. We really appreciate it. Sonoma County District Attorney Carla Rodriguez released a...
That's the same statement here. But it's just really all about what the administration thinks. And sometime in the near future, when we do an outdoor show, I might find a message for the school district, because they really just feel like sweeping this under the carpet and saying, we don't care. We don't care. We'll handle this our own way. By handling it, they mean we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to be able to talk about it. And we'll let this walkout happen, because really, things have got to change when it comes to safety, to the safety of a child. That's what it takes. And we need to be that voice. Kids need a voice. That stream was a voice out there. We'll keep you posted what's been going on. Coming up next, are you worried about smoking? Listen to what the tobacco industry over the years has said, and you won't be quite so worried. It's smoke and mirrors. Stay with us. Before we go on to smoke and mirrors, let's go back to what happened before. Every time we see school fights, we're not keeping our kids safe, whether it's in the bathroom, in the school bathroom, in the classroom. All the videos are raging on YouTube. So what's the big deal? Here's Rob.
What's up, you wild pancakes? A huge requested rant, which is actually one of my old school rants I was planning on redoing anyway. High school fights. Because high school, I loved high school. Boy, what a shit time for almost everybody. Now you log on to Facebook and you see it everywhere. You see those vertical fight videos everywhere, like watch innocent teen get beat up in school lunch cafeteria. Very small teen beats up huge bully. Sometimes it's like, I get it, but remember when you were in high school and you heard about these things? The drama is the worst. So I heard because Derek, slept with Samantha that, Tom found out, and Tom, it's always, stupid gossip and everybody has the story wrong. I heard that he made fun of his sister who has Tourette's, and that's why he punched him first. Well, I heard he got sucker punched because of some Call of Duty argument. And you're sitting in class waiting for the stupid teacher to start like this. You got that dumb-ass girl who has no clue what's going on with the conversation that always has to butt in. There's two people gossiping here, and she goes, wait, what? What happened? Wait, what happened? And every time a fight breaks out outside in school or after school, it's always a huge crowd. A huge crowd of people have to gather around. My school, it never actually really happened while I was there. But if anything happened that drew that much attention, I was the one who just fucking called everybody an idiot as I walked around. I don't have time for that shit. That's the most important thing going on in my life, for me to stand there for 15 minutes and see what drama is happening. I want to go home and sleep. Take a nap or eat some food. And there's always someone who has to film it with their cell phone. That's why you see those vertical videos. And the one thing I fucking hate now is the people who taunt. It's like some bully or it's like some other kid. And it's always the same shit with the whole... Oh, hit him, Derek! So there's some douchebag named Derek, right? No offense to y'all named Derek, but hit him, Derek! Damn! Hey, swing, Derek! Swing! World star! World star! It's my 5 minutes of fame if this video blows up on Facebook, but that's why I want to have the... Oh, swing! And it's the same thing that goes for girls when girls fight, except it's more like...
Air bully.
Don't forget all the yelling in the background. Oh! It's usually always the lamest thing because no one in those videos actually know how to fight. Maybe you'll have that one kid who takes off his shirt and is trying to act all tough, but then as soon as he engages the guy, he swings like this. It's always drama that starts on Facebook then ends in a school fight. You would think people with a normal IQ wouldn't waste their time on that kind of bullshit because they usually get suspended for 2 to 3 days. Then they have the nerve to come back in class and act like they're bragging about it, did you see that fight I got in? Yeah, that's why I got suspended. And the story's always exaggerated, right? Some girl, pulls the hair of another girl, she gets, a little kick in or something like that, then the fight stopped. The rumors spread around, 30 different ways. Then when that expelled fighting girl comes back in class, she goes, I actually, broke her jaw. Her jaw was like this, I fucked that bitch up. Shut the fuck up. You're a stupid high school teen. When you get older and when you get into the real world, you'll realize that you wasted your time, breath, and energy on useless shit. Then you'll realize, fuck, I'm pretty stupid.
Exactly. Stop the filming. Be a Don't be a bystander. Break up the fight. Done. No need to film. Ain't no need to film. Smoke and mirrors when we come back, so stay with us and do not film more fights. I got a question for y'all. Do you smoke? If you don't, that's great. I don't smoke. If you're a smoker out there, this is a story for you. What if I told you that years ago, tobacco companies hid the truth and make more profits? That's exactly what happened in this next story. Tonight, we're going to show you an investigation of what happened back in 1993 when people try to hide the truth. It all began back in the 1950s. Here's Sam Nelson.
Worried about smoking? Listen to the tobacco industry over the years, and you won't be quite so worried.
It has not been established that cigarette smoking.
The bottom line is that we simply don't know. It is not a closed case. The fact that...
I don't know that they're harmful or harmless. What I'm saying is...
When the answers are found, I think this industry is going to come out all right.
Quit this lie. Quit telling this lie. It's over. It's 1992. Would you please come into the 20th century before we get to the 21st, for God's sake?
Meet Dr. Anthony Colucci, the highest-ranking tobacco insider ever to break ranks with the industry's line. Colucci, a toxicologist, was the director of smoking and health at the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, the country's second largest. His story is explosive.
But they know the truth. Of course they know the truth. Cigarette kills you. They knew it back then. Yes, they kill you.
The year was 1953. Ike was in the White House, and more than 50 million Americans smoked cigarettes. But it was also a time when major studies linking cigarettes and lung cancer first made national news.
Every one of the studies reported that there is an association between excessive smoking and cancer of the lung.
And the cigarette giants, according to their public relations company, were frantically alarmed. In a panic, they gathered here at the Plaza Hotel in December 1953 to plot their strategy, one drafted by the public relations firm of Hill and Knowlton. According to the master plan, the key to the strategy would be the creation of a supposedly independent research council, ostensibly to pursue the facts about smoking and health. In January 1954, with much fanfare, the cigarette companies announced the formation of a tobacco research council, placing full-page ads in more than 400 newspapers, which said the tobacco industry considered their customers' health paramount to every other consideration of their business. But over the years, the Council for Tobacco Research, or CTR, appears to have made its paramount business providing the scientific cover for the industry's line that there is no conclusive proof that smoking causes illness or death. A line Dr. Colucci says the industry knew to be untrue.
Here's what was told to me when I got to Reynolds Tobacco Company in 1967. If any of the tobacco company executives ever come and visit you, don't mention the word cancer to them.
You were told by an official of the company.
Yes, my supervisor.
Never to mention cancer when top company officials come by.
Absolutely. It was verboten. It was absolutely forbidden. So now they can honestly go up before Congress or anybody they want in a court of law and say, nobody ever told me it caused cancer.
In 1968, Dr. Colucci was picked to head a team of R.J. Reynolds scientists investigating the effects of smoking on the lung. He says the research was making progress.
You were getting close to a mechanism that would have demonstrated conclusively that what?
That cigarettes destroy lung tissue, how they destroy lung tissue, how they predispose it to chronic bronchitis and emphysema, and ultimately to cancer.
By March of 1970, Colucci says his team was near a breakthrough.
And one day, we just all were called into a room and fired.
Why?
Because they didn't want to know the truth. I mean, basically, I think it's just sort of a conspiracy of disinformation. So how can you carry on a conspiracy of disinformation when sitting in your back pocket or in your laboratory, as a matter of fact, or in the minds of your scientists? Saying, there's all this data. Just pretend it doesn't exist.
There were all kinds of rumors going around. I have seen no evidence to that effect, that we were dismissed because we had found anything that was damaging or that we were on the brink of finding anything that was damaging.
Dr. William Simmons, a biochemist, is the current director of smoking and health at R.J. Reynolds. He was part of Dr. Colucci's 60s research team. And he says the unit was shut down because of a company reorganization, plus it was more efficient to do the research outside.
Every company, any company, wants to make a profit. They're in business to make a profit. But they also have a responsibility to their customers to produce the best product that they can with regard to all of the allegations that you're talking about, and this company is highly concerned with that.
Sam, this is where the process of making cigarettes... To understand why R.J. Reynolds says it's so concerned, you only have to visit their plant in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where they make Winston, Salem, Doral, and Camel cigarettes. That's money you see coming off the assembly line. Big money. This one machine alone makes 8,000 cigarettes per minute. On this 4-acre factory floor, Reynolds makes 300 million. Yes, 300 million cigarettes a day. Just one plant of just one tobacco company. Last year, Americans spent an estimated $47.3 billion on cigarettes, which may help explain why, despite the hazard labels on its own cigarette packs, R.J. Reynolds insists there's still no proof that cigarettes kill.
Let me read you this warning. It's a Surgeon General warning. Smoking causes lung cancer, heart disease, emphysema, and may complicate pregnancy.
Yeah, so that's true.
It doesn't say smoking might do this. It says it does it.
I don't think that it has been proved to cause these diseases. Now, I agree that it's a very strong risk factor for certain human diseases.
Like what? Cancer?
Lung cancer, emphysema, and cardiovascular disease.
You can't get worse than that, can you?
Well, there's certainly terrible diseases, but at the same time, the scientific evidence is still lacking that shows causation.
Given all the compelling evidence that's out there, I cannot believe in my heart of hearts that anyone with two brain cells that run together, regardless of what their position is in the tobacco industry, believes that. Because it's counterintuitive, it's a lie.
To back up his contention that the company wasn't trying to hide anything, Dr. Simmons showed us that the company had retained notebooks from the 1960s research work. But he wouldn't let us look inside them, explaining the information was a company trade secret. Whether they shed any light on Colucci's contention that the unit was shut down because the company didn't want to know the truth, a contention Simmons disputes, we couldn't tell. But two other former R.J. Reynolds scientists, who were also let go back in 1970, have stepped forward in interviews with Prime Time to back up Colucci.
As far as saying that he is twisting the story, no way. I saw the same thing.
Joseph Baumgartner was Colucci's principal assistant.
But you're convinced that for many years, these companies have known that their product causes serious injury to health.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I think over the years, they have just continuously withheld the truth. They have not told the American public.
Scientist Dr. Robert Bruce actually was rehired by R.J. Reynolds for a time in the 1980s to help company lawyers defend against tobacco lawsuits.
So they've maintained a tissue of lies for decades, and now they're caught in the web.
It certainly is a web of deception. It's probably make a black widow jealous.
At the Web Center, the Council for Tobacco Research.
The real purpose of the Council for Tobacco Research, in my opinion, is to develop studies and develop strategic databases which allow the industry to continue to apply its smoke and mirrors.
The Council for Tobacco Research was a fraud.
Attorney Mark Edel may be public enemy number one as far as the tobacco companies are concerned. In bringing a number of lawsuits against the industry over the years, he has uncovered internal documents that are highly damaging to the Council's credibility.
CTR was a front, it was a shield, and it wasn't calculated to lead to any relevant information on cigarette smoking health.
Consider these documents from the industry's confidential files. Item: CTR memorandum, which says the program has carried its fair share of the public relations load in providing materials to stamp out the brush fires as they arose. Item: handwritten notes belonging to the former chief executive of Lorillard, which say CTR is best and cheapest insurance the tobacco industry can buy, and without it, the industry would be dead. Item: the former vice president of the Tobacco Institute, the industry's trade group, boasts that the holding strategy over the years has been brilliantly conceived and executed, creating doubt about the health issue without actually denying it. Evidence like this led federal Judge H. Lee Sarakin, in a written opinion, to state the tobacco industry may be the king of concealment and disinformation. Last year, after 3 attempts, the industry succeeded in having Judge Sarakin removed from hearing a pending tobacco case. The appeals court said it found no bias on his part, but wanted to avoid the appearance of partiality. The judge had written that a jury might reasonably find that the cigarette companies had engaged in an industry-wide conspiracy, vast in its scope, devious in its purpose, and devastating in its results.
This is one of the most reprehensible examples of corporate behavior gone wrong that has ever existed in the history of this country.
Dr. Kenneth Warner is a professor of public health at the University of Michigan and a leading expert on the tobacco industry.
The fact is that the public as a whole underestimates the risk of smoking, and smokers in particular underestimate that risk and believe that it doesn't apply to them personally.
Professor Warner believes consumers don't necessarily understand the risks because the industry has spent 40 years and untold billions raising doubts about the dangers.
Now today, they're spending over $4 billion a year. That's, it's well over $100 a second. Just like that, they're spending $100 every second trying to convince people that smokers are alive with pleasure, or that smokers are youthful, healthy, vigorous people.
That's what the ads have always tried to do. People want to be like the models. Consider Janet Sackman, a young beauty discovered more than 45 years ago on a New York beach, who modeled for Lucky Strike cigarettes. Smoke a Lucky, the ad says, to feel your level best. Meet Janet Sackman today.
At one time, you were a walking advertisement for cigarettes. What are you a walking advertisement for today?
Cancer. After smoking 33 years, Sackman has lost her larynx and part of a lung to cancer. And then there are the famous Marlboro ads. In the mid-1970s, Philip Morris attempted to suppress a British television documentary about how real cowboys and Westerners were dying of smoking-related diseases.
Well, it's hard to describe it, except when the pain is actually with you. I just have to stop and gasp for breath.
I'm here today to add my voice.
But Philip Morris couldn't stop one of its cowboy models from speaking out.
If you have an IQ approaching that of a hamster, you got to be able to believe that it's going to kill you, or it can kill you.
Cowboy stuntman Wayne McLaren smoked for 30 years and modeled for Marlboro in 1984. 3 years ago, he was diagnosed with lung cancer.
I didn't know at the beginning, really all the ramifications from smoking that could happen to someone. But now I know. But it's a little late now.
Marcella, how many years did you smoke? 30 years. 30 years.
Today, Janet Sackman teaches other former smokers who have lost their larynxes to speak.
I want people to know that you could get this, and you could get worse from smoking. Very few people get away with it.
Marlboro man Wayne McLaren didn't. He died of lung and brain cancer last July at the age of 51. The Federal Centers for Disease Control estimated that in 1988, cigarette smoking killed some 434,000 Americans. But to this day, the tobacco company's line is, well, listen to Dr. Simmons of R.J. Reynolds.
We don't know whether that number is real or not.
If it's not 434,000 roughly, what number do you use?
No one knows what that number may or may not be. That's
Zero?
the whole point.
Zero?
We don't know that. We don't know.
Are you suggesting to our audience that maybe no one has died from smoking cigarettes in the United States in 1988?
I don't know.
So they don't know. But what's the solution? There could be a safer cigarette out there that could really get rid of the cancer. That story when we return. Stay with us. Returning now to our story. You've heard what the tobacco industry has said, that they've not known the truth about what smoking causes cancer. If you read the box, it says cancer, heart disease, emphysema, and may complicate pregnancy. That's what the tobacco company's employees say, and they just basically made them shut their mouths saying, hey, Don't you dare talk about that. Don't you dare say that word cancer. We don't want to hear it. But now, there may be a cigarette on your shelf that could help out. So, what's the big deal about this? Once again, here's Sam Donaldson.
If the tobacco companies have known for years about the danger of their product, did they do nothing to attempt to fix the problem? Well, consider what happened here at the Liggett & Myers Tobacco Company in Durham, North Carolina, where a revolutionary new cigarette that might have been safer was deliberately withheld from the market. Dr. James Mould, who now lives in retirement near Durham, went to work for Liggett, maker of Chesterfield, Eve, Lark, and L&M cigarettes, back in 1955. Working in this research building, he was assigned to identify the ingredients in cigarette smoke that caused cancer in lab mice.
Once we found what the materials present were that were causing the cancers on mouse skin, our next task was to say, well, what do we do about this?
And the company executives were all for this at that point.
Everything was go ahead, yes.
They wanted to see if they could develop a safe cigarette.
Correct.
All right, what happened?
We did.
Dr. Mould spent 25 years working on the XA project, developing a different cigarette, specially treated with chemicals that he says caused no cancer in lab animals.
So by 1980, you had developed a cigarette that would be safe to smoke. Well, why don't I find this in the stores today?
Well, that's a good question.
Dr. Mould says when the XA cigarettes were finally ready for production and marketing in 1978, company lawyers stepped in and scuttled the project.
Why would the legal department want to kill a project that would develop a safe cigarette?
They were afraid that putting such a cigarette out would reflect on the products that they had been putting out and for which they had been under litigation.
So that rather than develop a safe cigarette that would result in this kind of adverse courtroom situation, they were willing to continue to market a cigarette that killed people.
Well, that's putting it bluntly, but I guess that's correct.
Well, how would you put it, Doctor?
I don't know how else to put it.
They have made a lot of profit, and it has cost an enormous number of lives.
University of Michigan tobacco expert Kenneth Warner.
To produce a less dangerous product means you're acknowledging that your product is dangerous, your current product is dangerous. They couldn't do that. They didn't want to do that.
Liggett told Primetime in a statement it couldn't comment on all this specifically because of pending litigation. But in the past, the company has cited various reasons for scuttling the project, including taste problems and unresolved questions about health effects. But an internal Liggett document introduced in a court case states, any domestic activity will increase risk of cancer litigation on existing products. U.S. manufacture for export will be less risky. In the end, the company elected to continue to market their existing cigarettes. And no one else has stepped forward publicly to buy Liggett's patent on the XA. Instead, the companies have spent millions fighting lawsuits filed against them. And they've been amazingly successful. Over the years, in more than 300 cases, they haven't paid out a penny. And why is that? Well, for one thing, ever since 1966, when the Surgeon General's report first came out, courts and juries have ruled that people smoke at their own risk. After all, if it says right on the pack that smoking causes lung cancer, don't come asking for money because you ignored the warning. But Dr. Colucci says there are other reasons why the companies have been so successful.
How do you defend against the obvious?
You set a level of scientific proof that's unachievable.
Colucci should know. He was brought back in 1980 to help Reynolds' lawyers devise courtroom defense strategies, which he did until they parted ways again in 1992.
What you do is you say, in order for you to prove to me that cigarettes kill this person, these are the scientific hurdles you're going to go through. You must do this, you must do this, you must do this. Knowing full well, what a caper, knowing full well that science can never achieve that level.
Colucci won't talk specifics, saying that would violate confidentiality agreements he signed with R.J. Reynolds. But in general, he says the approach centers on suggesting the cancer or illness may have been caused by something else, say hereditary factors, diet, or as the company sometimes suggests, air pollution. Dr. Colucci says cigarette smoke is 200,000 times more potent in causing lung cancer than air pollution.
It's possible. Anything is possible, thing. But 200,000 to 1, forget it.
Still, when presented by the industry's courtroom team, such tactics work. Attorney Mark Udell has come the closest to beating the companies in a lawsuit in the case of Rose Chipolone.
Rose Chipolone, during her deposition, said, if it really had been proven that cigarette smoking caused lung cancer, do you think the tobacco companies would have sold it, and do you think the government would have let them sell it?
Rose Chipolone, the New Jersey housewife with lung cancer who sued 3 cigarette companies, died before the trial ended. But the jury awarded her husband $400,000, finding that Liggett & Myers bore some responsibility for her death. On appeal, the decision was reversed. And though the Supreme Court said the case could be retried, Mark Udell and his associates, having already spent millions of dollars, just gave up.
The firms have just come to the conclusion that they can't financially absorb this litigation.
And that's part of the strategy. Wear them down. And wear down a jury. Same way. Days and days of testimony about statistics. Obfuscate. The bottom line is it's just a war of attrition.
We wanted to speak to the tobacco companies. 5 of the 6, Philip Morris, American Tobacco, Brown & Williamson, Laura Lord, and Liggett & Myers, said no to a TV interview, as did the Council for Tobacco Research and the industry's trade association, the Tobacco Institute. Only R.J. Reynolds agreed to see us, where we put the questions to Dr. William Simmons about charges of a 40-year-long industry conspiracy to hide the truth.
I've heard allegations to that effect. Mr. Donaldson, I have seen no evidence to that effect.
Doctor, that's a lawyer's answer. I've seen no evidence.
But, Mr. Donaldson, if I've seen no evidence, it's about the only answer I can give.
Well, how do you think the audience is going to take it when I say, here is the director of Smoking and Health? You're not some little fish. You're not some guy just been hired. You're the director of Smoking and Health at RJR, who says to me, I've seen no evidence there's a conspiracy. Rather than, no, Mr. Donaldson, there is not a conspiracy to hide the truth.
All right, how about this? To the best of my knowledge, my ability to know, there is no conspiracy.
But there is an effort by R.J. Reynolds to silence its critics. It has gone after 2 of Primetime's whistleblowers. The day after he spoke with us, Dr. Robert Bruce was served with a restraining order to prevent him from disclosing confidential information about the company. And last month, R.J. Reynolds, characterizing Dr. Colucci as a disgruntled ex-employee, sued to stop him from revealing secrets it says he signed a pledge to keep.
What they're going to simply say is, he's a lunatic. He's crazy. He has an axe to grind. Take an ad hominem approach. Just destroy my credibility.
R.J. Reynolds is charging that Colucci has threatened the company by asking for a consulting arrangement, which would pay him $5 billion in fees over a 10-year period in exchange for his silence. Colucci acknowledges his attorney talked to Reynolds about a new consulting contract. He says he was willing to go back to work for them if they would come clean about their product. But he denies he threatened anyone. When Reynolds' lawyers asked Colucci about these employment overtures, he invoked the Fifth Amendment and refused to answer, telling Prime Time he did that because he now fears the company will attempt to bring criminal charges against him.
I'm not some loony that's running around trying to knock down the tobacco industry. I'm just a scientist who finally got sick and tired of it. I'm just tired of it. I want to hear the truth.
And that's the truth. So, with that in mind, common sense alert. Here's the common sense. If you sign an agreement, you don't say shit. You keep it to yourself. You sign a paper saying, I agree not to say anything. Don't say it to the media. If they file a restraining order on you, don't say it. Don't say anything. Don't violate your restraining order. Keep your mouth. When someone tells you to keep your mouth shut, keep your mouth shut. And if all you smoke is that sue them, common sense alert. Where do I begin? The packets. On the box. Cancer, heart disease, emphysema. You smoke at your own risk? Well, okay, you shoot the tobacco industry. You may win, you may lose. That's what smoking does to you. And in words of Mr. Mackey, smoking's bad, okay? And if you start smoking at an early age, it's going to get bad, okay? Smoking can lead to all kinds of health problems like cancer, okay? Let me tell you something about cancer, okay? Cancer's bad, okay? That's common sense for you. If you made a safer cigarette, common sense alert again. Common sense would tell you to make a safer cigarette for everyone to use. That way, no cancer, no nothing, no pregnancy, none of that. If you make a safer cigarette, there will be no cancer, no pregnancy. Screw the lawyers. Make the cigarette, sell it. If the lawyer's trying to back out, you can tell them to go F themselves. And maybe that'll happen. Alright. Because of that report, I don't think we're going to have time to show you that story about the Jedi kid guy from Corpus Christi, here in Corpus. We're probably going to have that for you coming up on Saturday. Yeah, we have time. We have time for that story, so I'll play that story when we return. Stay with us. Finally tonight, here's a question for you. When you drive your destination and see someone doing that to kindness, whether it's playing guitar or doing the story you're about to meet, does it ever make you smile? It should to this story. You're about to meet someone who uses the Force to shine a smile and keep others out of the dark side. Take a look at this story.
18-year-old Alex Adame is on a mission.
I want to create world peace.
Every day you can find him in the role of Luke Skywalker, spreading a force of kindness as he walks from Naples Street to the Selena Memorial.
I love it when people are happy, you know. I mean, sure, they're always stressful after a long day of work, and, you know, sometimes they may have a bad day, but that's what I'm here for.
You may be wondering, why Luke Skywalker?
When I saw episode 8, it kind of brought my childhood down. So I became the new Luke Skywalker to show people hope and peace and just bring them joy and happiness.
Alex's dad, Edward, is the one who exposed him to Star Wars.
When he walks out the door, he's going out to spread peace and make people feel joy when he's out there, letting them just watching him to get the idea that it's just all about hope.
A constant reminder that anyone can be kind. So next time you see Alex standing on the corner, honk your horn, because we can all spread kindness together. Devon Taylor.
May the Force be with you all.
For 6 News.
Oh, I gotta give him a big hug if I see him out there. Every day he walks from Naples Street to the Selena Memorial. Alex even has been awarded a medal from the district attorney's office for his acts of kindness.
Now isn't that sweet? Use the Force for that reward. And maybe you one day could help spread kindness, like I always do. At the corner. By Waldron and SPID. I shouldn't be telling you this, but now I'm telling you. That's Give Me a Break for this Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday night. And may the Force be with you. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, the Force may be powerful. Have a good Forceful night. And always remember to use the Force within you. Good night, everyone.